to introduce my friend, Eric Thurwanger. He is the founder of Think Great. And Eric and I actually, we had to go to Hawaii to a speaking engagement to meet, even though you're kind of down the street from me in Minnesota. So it was weird how we met, but I'm glad to know you because you've become a friend and I so admire what you do. Eric draws from his experiences as a U.S. Marine, an executive business leader, a sales professional, and an entrepreneur to help organizations achieve new levels of success. And as an aside, I have to say, that makes him sound like a total badass, which you are, but you also have a soft side. And I love hearing you on stage when you have the full time and you can tell your story about you and your wife. Eric uniquely combines leadership development, sales performance, strategic planning into strategies and techniques that empower team members and leaders to exceed expectations. Eric has inspired audiences across the country in nearly every industry, and Think Great is a certified veteran-owned business. And Eric is also the author of the Think Great collection, which I own. And Eric is also the founder, if that weren't enough, of the Think Great Foundation, which awards scholarships to military spouses, which I just love that you do that, my friend.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I asked Eric before, if he were participating in the Random Olympics, what would his gold medal be for? And he shared with me that he is the cornhole champion of his house. Welcome,
That's
Eric.
absolutely
Thank you for being here, donating your time and your brain. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Sean. A big thank you to you for your focus and desire to put this summit on. And Mahogany, thank you so much for everything you did to line this up. You know, I've got a very short period of time with everybody. And what I want to say is I am here to help us to achieve greatness through chaos. And I know that may sound odd. You may say, wow, how can we do that right now? But what I want to share with you are some of the things that I work with my clients based on the 3 pillars of business greatness. And we all have these pillars. Regardless of what industry you're in, we have 3 pillars that sustain our business and allow us to grow and become greater. And that's the pillar of leading, planning, and selling. And Shauna was touching down a little bit on that, of what my core offerings are to our clients. And we help to transform businesses 1 pillar at a time. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, how can we achieve greatness when there's chaos? Now, I want to go backwards just a little bit here, because most people are pretty frustrated right now. There's a lot of stress out there, and you may have felt it. You may be feeling it right now in business. In fact, you may be thinking, how is he talking about achieving greatness when all people are talking about is COVID-19? How is it possible to enhance everything that we're doing? Well, I'm going to share this with you. I believe that even though this is what we're seeing, we are seeing so much coverage on coronavirus and the transition. The greatest opportunities lie ahead for us. And we've got to strengthen our ability to lead, plan, and sell. Now, Time Magazine actually did an interesting study or an article on coronavirus, and in there, they said that the coronavirus outbreak has become the world's largest work-from-home experiment. I thought that was pretty interesting because it's actually true. We are now experimenting with work from home, although maybe we've all become adept to it and we're better with Zoom and all of the virtual capabilities. But here's what I'm going to suggest. It's not just a work from home experiment. There's 3 other experiments happening simultaneously, and that is a leadership experiment is happening. We are testing our skills as leaders because right now, leaders are needed more than ever. We are also testing the strength of our plan. Can our plan guide us to a better norm? We're going to hear that term all the time, new norm, new norm. I don't know about you, but I've already got tired of hearing about the new norm. So we have renamed it the great norm, and we are planning for that. And you should have a plan, a strategic plan that outlines how to get from here to there. And this is also a sales experiment. COVID-19 has seen the world literally shut down, and most companies have struggled. And yet this is the greatest time to focus on these 3 pillars: your leading pillar, your planning pillar, and your sales pillar. Now, I'm going to throw another caveat out there. As tough as it was during the 90 days or so of lockdown or quarantine or stay at home, we are about to enter an even more challenging phase if our pillars aren't strong. I have said this before and I'll say it again. We actually handled the chaos better than the transition. And what I mean by that is, when I was in the military, you could have these men and women go tackle any mission, go into the toughest environments, put their lives at stake. And yet with all the training and development, at the end of their tour, one of the hardest parts for these brave warriors was the transition back to that new, greater, that new normal life. Now, Shauna touched on a little bit on my wife and I. My wife has survived 4 battles of cancer. She passed away of cardiac arrest while I was doing CPR. The first responders brought her back after the 3rd hit with the defibrillator. We don't have enough time to go into the whole story, but I'll just touch base on the first battle with cancer. It lasted a year, 7 cycles of chemo, a month of radiation, a stem cell transplant. Everything was regimented. Sure, there was chaos. Sure, it was tough, but every treatment was regimented. Her doctor appointments were regimented. I had to clean the Hickman line, the exit wound, and flush it with saline, give her shots every night, give her medicine. Everything was regimented. It was the transition back to her new norm, the recovery that lasted possibly about 2 years, that was the toughest part. And so we've seen this, where the actual incident isn't as hard as the transition. If you are listening to this right now, we need to strengthen our pillars because we are in the transition phase, and this is how a lot of people feel about it. They feel stressed out. They feel that it's hard to unify their people. They feel it's hard to achieve greater results. But I'm so glad you're listening right now because it is absolutely attainable. But we need to focus on transforming our businesses one pillar at a time. In a theme, through this whole time that we have together, I want you to think about one simple thing. How can your organization be greater? You don't even have to answer it right now. All I want you to do is think about that one question. It is how I start off so many sessions with my clients right now. How can your organization be greater? And we have to be able to answer that. And that level of greatness, you see it right there on your screen. It says greatness. That level of greatness will be supported by your ability to lead, plan, and sell. And so I'm going to share some techniques for you to unify your people during this time period. There is no greater time than right now to lead our people. There is no greater time than right now to focus on a plan for a better destination. There is no greater time than right now to sell, not just to make another buck, but to make an impact. This is our time where we find out who's who. So Shauna briefly touched down on the fact that I have written a number of books. 3 of them apply to each of these pillars. One is a leadership book, one is a strategic planning book, and one is a sales book. And I'm going to take little concepts from each one today. And I have 3 objectives for us, 3 things I want us to focus on during the course of this presentation that I'll help to outline and answer as we go through each of these slides. For starters, we want to define your business greatness. I don't want you leaving this call, this webinar, this session, without understanding how your business can be greater. Also, I want you to understand the power of a shared language. How great would it be to have every single person on your team speaking the same language? How many of you ever heard somebody say that? I just wish we were speaking the same language. We're not on the same page. These can be extremely frustrating. But I'll bet you anything, you would like to have that unity within your team. And then I'm going to show you how to increase the strength of each of your pillars because it's doable, it's possible, and it's needed. So getting back to that very first question, what would make your business remarkable or greater? I just want you to think about that. And I know you probably know how to do the responses. You guys can raise hands, give thumbs up. But I just want you to think about this. Let me ask you a question. How many of you feel that your business could be greater right now? How many of you are believers that we could have a greater organization than we have right now? We could have greater results, greater performance, greater unification. I know if you're on here, if you're attending this summit, you agree with that and you would probably answer that with a very confident yes. So Let's flush this out a little bit more, and let's really identify that level of greatness. When I ask your peers from all over the world, how could your business be greater? These are some of the things they say. Well, it'd be greater as if we had a fully engaged team. How amazing would it be to have every single person on your team fully engaged, empowered, excited, enthusiastic during this transition? It'd be awesome. What if our leaders were empowered? One of the biggest sessions I'm doing right now is what we call a leadership cohesion program. We are bringing leaders together inside of organizations to make sure that they are unified, because a ripple at the top sends a big message right now. And some of those leadership deficiencies that may have been there during the good times are extremely evident during the COVID times and during the transition. And so we got to unify and empower those leaders. What would it be like if you just had a more cohesive or unified culture? Or maybe greatness to you is efficient workflow, getting things done right the first time, every time, minimizing mistakes, having more satisfied customers, greater sales success. Maybe you need to be more profitable, more predictable, more relevant. Maybe you're striving for higher levels of growth. You want to enter new markets. You want to launch new products and services. Any one of those would constitute greatness, greater results. But it doesn't come easy. And a lot of people think it may be even harder during these challenges. But this is the time we can unify our people. You want to know why camaraderie is so high in the military? It's because they face challenges together as a team. They don't run from it. They have to go into it. Think about this for a second. In the military, the people are trained and developed in chaos to go into chaos. They know it's going to happen. I started in chaos. I served during the Gulf War. I got out. They expect to put you in chaotic situations. In the civilian world, which I've been a member of since 1991, I'm one of you. I get it. In the civilian business sector, we train and develop people to avoid chaos, and there is no avoiding this. And you're finding out who's who right now. So leaders, everyone on this call, identify what would make your business greater. And we also have to identify, I know that there's obstacles out there. I know you're saying, hey, Eric, it's not easy. I agree with you. There's things that can get in our way. There's boulders that can block that path. And it could be anything from cash flow to competition to market conditions, or the wrong people you've got on board, lack of teamwork, low morale, no systems, all of that. But that's not the greatest challenge. That is not the greatest obstacle we face. If you want to achieve greater results, we have to identify the main obstacle. And I know it. I know exactly what it is. You do not hear people talking about this very often. In fact, I'm going to let you in on a goal. By December 31st of this year, I will have my 7th book written, and it is exactly on this topic. I am writing a book called The Communication Movement, because I know that the key factor that holds businesses back is there is no shared language. And I'm going to explain what that means, but I'm going to talk to you about the power of words, the words we choose to unify our people. And I'm even going to give you some words, 4 or 5 words that you can start to replace right now, because I'm sure most of you would like to unify your people while simultaneously strengthening your pillars. Now, I ran a media company in Southern California. I started off entry level. And when I got there, I noticed that the words that were being spoken, the language, was not unifying. I was hearing certain terms and phrases and words that were magnetic in their effect, but it pushed people away. It didn't pull them together. It had the opposite effect, but they were used routinely. They didn't know any better. And I started to do some dialect enhancements, and a more cohesive team started to form. A team of remarkable people started to form based on our language that we had. So let me just ask you a simple question. I ask this of every single client, every person I meet, every business leader. What is your greatest asset? How would you answer that question right now? I see a bunch of you on the chat line. I love all the participation. You guys are awesome. I see people raising their hands. Love this stuff. But what is your greatest asset? How would you answer that question? Anybody want to throw? Oh, there it goes. Yeah, absolutely 100% correct. And 99.9% of the time, people say the same thing. Our greatest asset is our people. If that is true, then we have to pay particular attention to the language they're speaking. When I arrived in boot camp, they were speaking a different language. I'm not saying to use all the words they said. Don't do that. But there was a language in the Marine Corps that unified people. There's a language in the Army that unifies people. There's a language in the Navy and the Air Force that unifies their people. In the Coast Guard, it unifies their people. And it's deeper than their job words. Now, here's the interesting part. If people are our greatest asset, then we have to structure our business to get the most out of our people. Not just out of our products, not just out of our service. And so I'm going to ask you some questions. And these are the questions I ask people to start gauging what type of language is being spoken and how strong their pillars are. So the very first question, I just want you to think about these on a scale of 1 to 10, thinking about your business, your environment, your team. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is leadership in your organization? 10 being best. You can throw some answers. You can pop in your numbers in the chat line, and I'll keep asking these. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is leadership in your organization? All right, I'm seeing them going up there, the 10s. Awesome. That doesn't surprise me if you're on Shauna's Summit, that you're answering 10 to how important leadership is. But let me ask you another question. How important is it for you and your team to have a plan that provides a direction, how to get from point A to point B in the fastest possible way? How important is it to have a plan in your idea, in your mind? Now, when I ask that question, just like the leadership question, most people will say a 10. Let me ask you another question. We'll talk about your sales pillar. How important is it to increase unsolicited referrals? In other words, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to develop unsolicited referrals? That is a referral that you didn't ask for. How many of you would like to earn more referrals that you never asked for? How great would that be? I'll tell you how it is. It's awesome. It's so incredible, right? That's like if sales were fishing and fish jumped into your boat. How would you like that? And when I ask sales leaders that question, they'll answer to 10. Most people give leadership a 10, planning a 10, and sales a 10. It's your 3 pillars. But then I ask questions on a scale of 1 to 10. If leadership is a 10, how would you rank your current leadership development program? If having a plan that provides direction is a 10, how would you rank the use and support of your current plan? If earning referrals is a 10, how would you rank your current referral tracking system? And too often, people give a 0 on those. So we have given something a 10. We have said this is a 10, but our implementation of it is a 0. Not that they intended it to be, but that's the reality. We also say people are our greatest asset, but we don't often focus on the language that unifies them. Because I think you'll agree with me, we all accomplish more through the efforts of others. If everyone thinks and acts like a leader, even if no one's following, if everyone thinks and acts like a leader and supports a plan that gives a clear direction and performs in a way where we earn unsolicited referrals, I'm going to throw something out there with you. You will make more than you've ever thought doing less than you ever imagined. How many of you would like to earn more and do less? Because the opposite of that is a nightmare, right? Now, I know what you're thinking. These 3 topics are huge. If you were to look up leading, planning, selling, and you went to Google right now and just type these words in, you want to learn more about leadership or having a business plan or sales, the amount of results that come back are almost unbelievable. 5.5 billion results on leadership, 6.6 billion on business plan, 17 billion on sales. Well, of course, that's giving a sale on everything. If you just narrowed it down to selling, you're probably at about 3 or 4 billion. It's a lot to sift through. And yet we would agree that leading, planning, and selling are critical to our business and yet very rarely taught. Not in a way that unifies people. So I want to ask you another question. I have a lot of questions today. Fortunately, I have a lot of answers. If you could create a shared language that will unify your people, unified people form remarkable teams that do amazing things. People who think and act like leaders and are part of a team make less mistakes than people who act as individuals, not thinking about the collective good. I think we would all agree with that. Mistakes can be expensive. Some mistakes may not even be recoverable. Mistakes can cost you a key account. Mistakes can cost you a key team member. Mistakes can cost you your reputation. A mistake can happen in a second, but it could take a long time to fix it. And so here's the question. What would you rather spend money on? Developing a shared language or fixing a mistake? It is infinitely less expensive to teach people how to speak in an engaging and empowering way by shifting some words, some phrases, some shifting of the dialect that's happening in your organization. Now, when I talk about leading, the language we expect to hear is leaders talking about improving communication or raising enthusiasm or having your people take initiative. How would you like to show up every day and everybody does what needs to be done without having to be told? That's initiative. Or integrity, doing what needs to be done all the time, even when no one's looking, just doing the right thing. Bearing, how we carry and conduct ourselves to ensure that the reputation of your organization is at the highest levels, and our identity, not just what we do, but who we are. It's powerful. We expect leaders to speak about words like that. And if we are involved in the planning process, which if you're on this call, I bet you at least half of you are involved in the planning process at some point. Planning involves us talking about words like accountability or engagement. People need to have buy-in on the plan, or innovative ideas that result from collaboration, that those ideas go into your plan. When I ran the media company in Southern California, we had to have innovative ideas to land new accounts. South Park was one of them. If you've ever watched the South Park show, they were my client. We had innovative ideas on how to help them transition through the Great Recession and to high definition. It took a team of leaders that were following a plan. We need to talk about solutions and vision. Why? Because the plan tells us how to get there, and that's the vision we have. Vision and planning go hand in hand. And then we have to have buy-in, right? We got to have people all on board with our flight. I use a lot of aviation language in strategic planning. I was an air traffic controller in the Marine Corps, so everything is about getting your flight to take off. All right. If we have an effective sales team, we need to hear certain words too. We can't just have busy salespeople. We need productivity to go up. We need to hear follow-up, relevant, meaningful follow-up. We need to hear people talking about referrals, asking for them, generating them, tracking them. We want to hear salespeople talking about success, not just monetarily, but the experience that our new clients or customers are having. We need salespeople who have passion, not just a desire for a bigger paycheck. And we need people who talk about driving sales, getting in your sales vehicle, turning on your sales engine, and driving to new opportunities. I don't know about you, I just got myself fired up speaking leadership, speaking planning, and speaking selling. I just got myself fired up. But then again, if you choose the right words, that's what happens. So I want to ask you a question. When you're thinking of your pillars, leading, planning, selling, it's happening in your organization right now. If you have no plan, then your pillar is very, very short. If you have people selling but have no system, then your pillar is too low. If you have people with leadership titles, but no leadership authority, with a position of leadership but no purpose, leadership pillar is low. But when people speak, leading, planning, and selling, those three pillars, those three dialects, do your words unify the team? You see, words are too important. Every word sends a message. And we can't ignore the fact that every word starts to unify people. I'm giving you a little teaser from my book. Words are magnets. These little word magnets will either push people away or pull them together. You have to assess the words being spoken in your office right now, in your environment, even if it's virtually. Are they pulling people together? Are they creating cohesion or repulsion? Now, I know we're not taught business language, not the type that unifies and solidifies a team. I know that because, like many people, I've started my own business. Even if you start your business, the IRS has a checklist to start a business. You have to apply for your EIN number. You have to do all of these things listed, right? Nothing says anything about the people side of the business. I'm not saying the IRS doesn't care. I'll let you say that. What I am saying is to start a business, at least through the IRS perspective, they don't care about your people. Now, if you start up a business, well, you have the checklist, the 10 steps to start up a business from the SBA. Again, they're going to have a series of things that need to be accomplished, things that you need to do, and you need to check them all off. But again, there's nothing about your people. Okay, here's what I don't understand. If people are our greatest asset, when do we start to focus on them? Do you want to know why? I think it's 96% of businesses fail within the first 10 years. So 86% fail within the first 18 months, give or take. And then studies from Inc.com and Forbes, Fortune magazine are showing that over 90% of businesses fail. They never make it to their 10-year mark. And yet all of them filled out the paperwork, but none of them have done the people work. And I don't mean all of them, but most of them. And so what we have to ask ourselves is, what is our assessment tool for getting people to speak the same language about topics that we rank, most of you, as a 10: leadership development, strategic planning, creating dynamic sales. Now, it's not that people aren't speaking in the workplace. You know they are. But I've been assessing this and studying it and researching it for 10 years. And here's what I found. Most of the people you work with, your colleagues, are extremely fluent in their business language, the words needed to run a business. And that means they're talking about their industry, their services, products, even the business, the company itself. They're fluent at it, which is awesome. It's great. They need to be. What they are not fluent at is the shared language of leading, planning, and selling. They do not have words that bring people together. In fact, here's what's interesting. Most people never wanted to be in sales. How many of you guys are in sales? Anybody in sales on this call? No people in sales? Almost nobody ever raises their hand saying, when I was in high school, I wanted to be in sales. Most likely to sell doesn't exist in a high school yearbook because nobody wanted to do it. Yet, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor, 14 million of us have a direct link to sales. We have a sales job, and millions of others support it. So it's very important that we are creating a language that unifies people, especially if they're doing something they never intended to do. We tripled our volume at the media company, not because we had better equipment. We had better people speaking a better language. I have written books on it, on how we did that. And we had achieved part of that 303% growth while minimizing our mistakes, almost eliminating every mistake in our organization after we've grown, not just sales-wise, but in market share, in other locations, during the Great Recession. How did we do it? We were unified. We had a language we spoke. Now, it might not be the exact language you're thinking about. In fact, you got to ask yourself, well, how many languages are there? According to Ethnologue, they're a publication of languages around the world. They lump in languages as a collection of dialects that are mutually intelligible. And they counted 196 countries with 7.6 billion people, and they determined that there are 7,099 languages. Now, of course, there's a handful that are the majority of the words and languages spoken in the world, but that's what they came up with. But we need a shared language. So there needs to be 7,100 because there still needs to be one more language, and I'm creating it right now. It won't be available till December, but I'm going to give you some tips today. We know when language doesn't connect. We know when it is off. In fact, I've got proof right here. When your Wi-Fi doesn't talk to Netflix and you cannot watch a movie, how frustrating is that? It's got to drive you nuts, right? Especially on movie night. Or hey, my wife had cardiac arrest. Her heart and her brain, that language, those signals were not connecting. Killed her. Fortunately, they brought her back. She made a full recovery. It's a longer story. We'll do that at another session. Or if your CRM and your ERP aren't connecting. But I'm going to tell you right now, you know the pain of language when it doesn't connect. Everybody, every single person on this call can relate to the next example I have. And it happens at a grocery store every time. It happens when you're about to barbecue. And you know what I'm talking about. You know when you go to buy a package of hot dogs and a package of buns, and there's 10 hot dogs per package, and then there's 8 buns. When that language doesn't communicate, something's wrong. How many of you on this call have ever been frustrated because we can't get the language between the people making the buns and the people making the hot dogs to connect. And then you end up buying 3 or 4 packs of hot dogs. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, somebody's already saying right on there. I got you. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, and that's just hot dogs. It's got to be even more frustrating when the people in your own company are not speaking the same language, are not on the same page. All those things, right? These all make sense. We got to focus on our words, focus on our language. And why? Because when language is weak, and I'm not talking about your business, your industry, your products and services, that's a given, your people should speak that. When the language, the people language, the words being spoken that should unify, when that connection is weak, it could dissatisfy your customers, create low morale. You could not accomplish your goals. It could cause unwanted forms of stress or frustrations, extra mistakes. You could miss opportunities, have unmet expectations, have a weak bottom line, everything that you see there. It's not worth it. It's absolutely not worth it. If you focus on having a shared language, the shared language of success, you will accomplish more goals. You will have more internal identity, which unifies your people. You'll increase pride in what they do. You'll raise the levels of morale. You'll increase referrals. Look at all this stuff. Why are more people not focused on those keywords? You'll hear them in a second, but here's what I'm going to share with you. When you focus on unifying the language, you create a culture that empowers people, gets people more engaged, passion is flowing, productivity goes through the roof. It feels electric in there. It is impactful for team members internally, for clients externally. It's unifying, it's collaborative. How many would like to be able to describe their cultures with those words 100% of the time? That's not how it started off at the media company. We were not engaged, we were not empowered, we were not impactful when I started. We were getting some things done. But there's a big difference to that. Now, as I promised, I wanted to give you some words. I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to speed it up here. Here's some words we shifted at the media company. How do people feel about change? They hate change. People fear change. And I know some people are like, I love change. You've learned to say you love it, but change means different. And people are afraid of that. And this transition out of COVID-19 means change is coming and they're already scared. So I never change anything with our clients. I don't change anything with leadership. I don't change anything with strategic planning. I don't change anything with sales. Here's what I do. I enhance everything. So leaders, I will tell you on this call, never again change anything. Only enhance everything. Why? Enhance means better. That creates buy-in. I don't want to change anything. I always want to enhance. Here's another thing. I see people using this word and the other word interchangeably. Manage and lead. Is there a difference between managing people and leading people? 100%. Here it is. We want to manage the work. We want to manage budgets and shift schedules. We want to manage inventory and projects. But we want to lead our people, our greatest asset. They deserve to be led, not managed. They deserve to be inspired and motivated and engaged. They deserve to be coached and mentored, and we deserve to guide them. Now, here's another one, too. 14 million people out there in sales that nobody wanted to be in sales. I'm going to tell you something. Stop selling. Just stop it. People hate doing it. People hate being sold anyways. I'm not telling you to stop generating new clients. What I am saying is stop selling and start sharing. We have a lady on our team, she's been with us over 5 years. When I approached her about the opportunity to work at Think Great, she goes, I would love to, I just can't sell. I said, that'd be great, I'd have to fire you if you sell. She goes, what do you mean? You wrote a sales book and you do sales courses. I said, yeah, it's against company policy to sell. You cannot sell anybody anything. You can only share what we do. You open the buying opportunity for them. Share more, sell less. All right. Stop trying to fulfill quotas in sales. Quotas are very non-personal. Shift it around to goals. Goals provide hope. They provide inspiration. They provide motivation. Goals cause us to look up from the challenges of the present to look into the benefits and opportunities of the future. And last but not least, how many of you, if you put your people as a 10 out of 10, your greatest asset, how many of you feel that teamwork is the key to success, or at least one of the major keys, right? Unifying the people, forming a team. So why is it that we call people employees? Think about this for a second. Think about the impact of this one word. When you were growing up and in high school, the counselor said, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many of you said, oh, I want to be an employee? Could you imagine going home and telling your parents, Hey, I figured out what I'm going to do today. I want to be an employee and work at a place where they give me an employee handbook. Absolutely not. We called our people employees at the media company, but we kept acting like we had a team. You know what we did? We changed it. We took that word out. We enhanced that word, employee, and we called them team members. So we didn't change our employee handbook. We enhanced it, and it became our team member handbook. When we talk to people in interviews, we're talking about being a team member, coming on board of a team, a cohesive unit, focused on common objectives. When we did make the decision to hire them, they received a team member handbook. It was powerful. Now, you know, I got to hustle here, but I'm going to leave you with some things to think about. How to assess your pillars. Here's some questions for you. And you can rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. Rank your current leadership development program. How good is it? Do you even have a name for it? Are people going through it? Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best. How engaged is your entire team? On a scale of 1 to 10, rank that. Rank the level of dynamic communication happening. When people speak, do people get empowered? How would you rank accountability? The partnership happening to course correct, not micromanagement, but accountability. And last, how unified is your current culture? Do your people really truly feel like they're part of a team, a cohesive unit? Rank that on a scale of 1 to 10 with a possible score of 50. How strong is that pillar? You can also rank your planning pillar. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well does your team utilize your strategic plan? Which means you got to have one for them to utilize it. But do they all support it? How well are your leaders supporting the plan? How well do you have your 3 to 5 year goals mapped out? How well do you have your short term, you know, these next, maybe even 6 months to a year? That's 6 months left in this year. It's crazy. We need goals. How well does your entire team understand the plan? These are ways to start assessing where your planning pillar is. And we'll bring it all home with your sales pillar. What is the productivity level of your sales team on a scale of 1 to 10? Not busy, but productive. How often does your sales team earn unsolicited referrals? Hey, at 10 will be, it's happening all the time. Rank the current level of sales support for your sales team. Sales work is teamwork. We need to have cohesive units working together to support the sales efforts. Rank the level of follow-up from your salespeople. Are they following up the 12 times it may take to land a sale? And rank the strength of your current sales system. Are all the steps mapped out so that everybody understands it? And what you're going to find is you're going to be able to assess where your pillars are. Now, we'd all like them to grow. We want them to be bigger. We want to get 10s out of 10s. But that's perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. What I want to share with you is strive for progress, not perfection. Make some little tweaks to your leadership pillar. Make some small enhancements to your planning pillar. Build and strengthen your sales pillar. Why? Because you have the ability to achieve greatness through chaos and through the transition if you focus on creating a shared language that helps to unify your people and support each of your pillars. Because now truly is the time when we need leaders, when we need a plan with a destination, and when we need our sales to be driven to new levels. Shauna, I think I just wrapped up exactly on time.
It was
so
brilliant.
Please let me know if I went over.
No, you
Or
still
if you
have
have
a
any
minute left. So
questions.
I have a minute left to thank you for, I know, guys, Eric is so busy right now. And I just want to thank him for contributing his time. He is helping so many organizations through this chaos, and he is walking the walk that he talks. So Eric, thank you so much for coming on to the summit to help so many people. The recording will be sent to everyone. So if you missed any part of this or you wanted those lists again, you'll have access to that for 24 hours. Thank you again, Eric. It was absolutely fantastic. I picked up a full page of notes. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Shauna, and thank you to everybody for spending some time with me today. We'll see you on the other side.
Bye. Thanks all.